I'm going to share a gift with you guys. I don't know whether you'll appreciate this or not, but last night I got to go and hear, or yesterday afternoon actually, went to the Armadillo, which I love going to the Armadillo. It's one of my favorite things. And we got to hear Ruthie Foster sing. And Ruthie Foster is amazing, just amazing. And but she brought, I think it was her two daughters. Is it both of them her daughters? But she brought up two young girls who sang a song that just I've been hearing over and over again this Christmas. And so the song is, I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. And unfortunately, you guys have that in your earworm now as well, so you're welcome. I love that song. It drives me nuts, but I love it. It's so delightful. Our lesson this week is, and we're in the season of Advent, and so our lesson is about the joy. And our daily word was about joy this morning. And I want to read to you from Luke chapter 2, verse 10. Just then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were terrified. But the angel said to them, do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today in the city of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. And one of the things I want to focus in on is this announcement. You know, last week I talked about angels, and I also talked recently about listening and making sure that we're listening to our angels. And I came up, brought out this old archaic word called hark. We're hark the herald angels sing. And it's about really paying attention to the messengers of the divine that are always present with us, always available to us when we are open to listening. Isn't that right, Ruth? She shared with me a beautiful experience this morning of just listening and realizing that God is always saying, I love you. Always saying, I love you. So that was a beautiful thing to share with me this morning. And so one of the things I want us to be conscious and aware of is that joy in and of itself is not something that we can get. It's something you already have. And it is something that is already a part of your innate being. It is a part of your innate spirit. Happiness, people have made this distinction, and I think there's some value in this distinction. There's a difference between happiness and joy. I was happy when I woke up this morning and I got on the scales and I weighed the same thing as I weighed yesterday. I was happy because yesterday was pretty. I had lots of things that could have enhanced my girth, and so I was very happy that I woke up this morning weighing the same. I would have been happier if I'd been down just a little bit, but that's all right. I mean, I was happy with that. But that's something that is an outer kind of thing, and it's not necessarily joy, because joy is really more of an inner quality and characteristic that we bring forth from within ourselves, more than it is something that is a reaction to something that goes on out here. It's really a response to that inner calling of spirit that says there is a presence and a power in you that you are created in the image and likeness of, that is bringing forth a power and energy and awareness and a vibration that moves us into a higher awareness of the presence of God. In John chapter 15, verse 11, Jesus said, if you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you these things so that my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete, or may be full, as often different translations say. And this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. And so, staying in the commandments really is having to do is just keep my commandments. His commandment really is to love. And they're really, love is one of the most significant powers and energies that is a part of our nature. And whether we realize it or not, love always exists. Love is always available. And it always exists and always available whether we're conscious of it or not. Whether we choose to participate in it or not. Even if we are not experiencing love, love always exists. And I'm going to suggest to you that joy is the same way. Joy always is available to us, and it is something that we allow to come forth from within us. It's something that we allow to be experienced and expressed in an outer way. But it's not something that the world gives to us. There's nothing out there that will bring you joy. Do you realize that? Now, don't get me wrong. There are things that I absolutely delight in. For example, one of my grandbabies is coming to visit us this weekend. And I'm going to suggest to you that she's one of my best spiritual teachers because she is so full of life and so full of joy. Don't be wrong. Now she's got her moods and she's got her ways, and she's set in some of those, and that's okay, But and there's sometimes you have to learn how to challenge and deal with that, and so. But there is an amazing experience of joy just being in her presence, because she knows how to allow the joy from her heart to come forth. And I'm going to suggest to you that as children, every one of us did that. Even when things in our upbringing were challenging and difficulty, for some reason, children have a way of allowing joy to come through. They look for it. They're open to it. And a big thing that really makes it worthwhile is play. Play and joy go hand in hand, don't they? And so, one of the things that Christmas is about to me is about children. And it's about the energy of joy. And it's about the energy of play. And it's about the creative power of allowing joy to come up within us so that it actually is making a difference not only in our experience of what's going on in life and in the world, but making a difference in what's going on in the world around us. And so joy is not something that we get from the world around us. It's something that we express out in the world, and by doing so, we bring a greater light into the world. I've been really enjoying thinking about and reflecting on and contemplating the energy of joy. And believe me, I've experienced a lot more joy this week than I've experienced in a long time, just because I've been doing that. And so it's one of the things I've encouraged you to do this season, to really look around you. And and there's certainly a lot of energy expressed about the idea of joy, especially, the advertisements say you're going to have a lot more joy if you go and buy this particular product and that, right? But look beyond the commercial aspect of it and just realize that there is an energy of this time that is to remind us of the beauty and the power and the glory that joy is available to us. And it's available to us through the birth of that Christ Spirit. See, Jesus came into the world to show us joy. He said so. That my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. He came to express joy in life and in the world. His birth is really a celebration of that understanding and that awareness that the birth of joy is available to each and every one of us. And it's available to us when we open up and are awakened to the angels that are really calling us to come up to a higher understanding, a higher level of seeing and feeling and believing and being in our life and in our world. The Buddha said, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. And when the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. And so when we focus our attention on an energy that is higher than the world is trying to give to us and present to us, when we focus our attention, when we pivot, as Abraham Hicks says, when we pivot away from the vibrations that are being broadcast through our news channels, when we pivot away from what is being presented as this is the way life is, and there's nothing you can do about it. We pivot away from that understanding and that thinking to recognize that there is something we can do about it. We cannot buy into the fear. The verse says, fear not. Do not be afraid. That's not insignificant. He's not just saying, oh yeah, you guys chill, calm down. He's saying, stop being afraid. Stop focusing on those fears. Stop putting your energy into whatever is fearful in your experience in life, because you are a creative power and you are a creative being, and your work and your life is really about bringing more joy into this world. And you do that by simply allowing yourself to be more in that experience and that energy of joy for yourself, to reflect on it, to meditate on it, to really tune into those understandings of your own inner life that brings you into an alignment with that energy of joy. Mother Teresa says, joy is prayer. Joy is strength. Joy is love. Joy is a net of love by which you can catch souls. And then Thich Nhat Hanh says, sometimes your joy is the source of your smile. And sometimes your smile is the source of your joy. And so one of the things I encourage you to really practice this season is, regardless of what's going on, see if you can just smile right in the middle of it. And see if that doesn't make a difference in some way. See if it doesn't somehow, there's a connection between here and here. I don't know if you knew that or not. There's a definite physiological connection between your lips and your heart. And if you change the attitude of your lips, you really change the attitude of your heart. Did you know that? And it changes the energy and vibration that's going on. And so practice smiling in even those circumstances that you may seem like it's hard for you to smile in. Dana Gatlin, in her wonderful book called God is the Answer, says, happiness, pure joy, is from within. It is a spiritual entity, a free, inalienable, easy for me to say, right? Free, inalienable, untouchable gift of God. It doesn't depend on this or that. It doesn't have to be created. It is. And so our time, our work, our learning, our unfolding is to learn how to align ourselves with that which already exists in us and allowing it to unfold in ways that we perhaps had not practiced before. One of my most powerful times in my life and one of the most greatest learning experiences was a time when I was, it's been described as a dark night of the soul. And it is really not something I really necessarily wish on anyone. And at the same time, I hope that we all can have the breakthroughs that something like that can bring in life, because it really does help to strip us away from those things that are not really significant, to strip away those things that are not really important, to really help us to bring down to an essence of who and what we are. And I was in a place where I was basically homeless. I wasn't out on the street, thank God, but I was definitely homeless. And I was living with friends, and my friends are some of the most wonderful people in life. And I was really severely depressed, and wasn't sure where I needed to go, what path to take. I wasn't sure where I needed to turn. And they gave me an amazing and wonderful book by a beautiful spiritual teacher, a guy named Torquem Saradarian. Isn't that a great name? Torquem Saradarian, and I recommend his work. If you've never run across him, he's just amazing, actually, what he's taught. And I had a chance to meet him some years ago. They took me to one of their services, and I got to meet Torquem, and there was an energy in his presence that was just transformative. And so he really had a beautiful light. And Torquem has a wonderful book that they gave to me while I was in the dark night of my soul called Joy and Healing. Now, needless to say, I wasn't real interested in joy at that time. I was kind of resistant to it. I don't necessarily, and this is not a joyful experience for me, is what I was thinking at the time. But I love my friends, and so I began reading it. And sure enough, as I began reading it, I began to notice that not only did I start to feel differently, but things began to change for me. And I began to see different ways and different experiences. And I want to share with you, one of the things that I love about the Christmas season is the understanding that it really is about children. And I'm going to say, you guys oftentimes hear me call you kids. I call folks, hi kids, right? Because I'm absolutely convinced that every one of us still has a kid inside of us. There's a kid in our heart. And Jesus said, unless you become as little children, you will in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. So what does that mean? Well, if you think about children and what they're like and what the energies that they bring and they hold, there is a wonder and about the world. And so we are being called, I believe, by that spirit within us to really stay in that energy of wonder about life and about the world. Torquem says this, the greatest characteristic of a child is joy. Life is a joy for him or her. A little rock, a little branch, a little gift makes him full of joy. And the second characteristic of a child is gratitude. Child psychologists miss this point. The most grateful person in the world is a child. He shows his gratitude in his joy, but remember that millions of children are psychologically starving because of the greed and painful psychology of the world. But once I was visiting in an old age home, people 75, 80, and 85 years old were sitting there like mummies, waiting for the stranger to take them away. And there was a heavy sadness in the house. And I talked to a few of them. And they said they wanted to die as soon as possible. And I stood in the middle of the hall and said to them, I came here to teach you a children's dance. All of you stand up, hold each other's hands, and I will tell you what to do. And I taught them the steps of the dance and the music, and then we began to dance. And we danced the dance 5 times. And they were full of joyful tears. When I was leaving, they asked me to come again and dance with them. We're being called to dance as little children. Little children dance uninhibited in so many ways. And I really believe that we're being called to move into that spirit and that energy that moves a child to dance in ways that, like nobody's watching, you know that saying? Dance like nobody's watching. Well, the truth of the matter is, I think you should dance like everybody's watching and just loving every bit of it. Because you love yourself so much that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the world is saying. It does not matter what the world is saying about you. It doesn't matter what the world is saying to you. It only matters what you are saying about and to yourself. What are you saying to yourself? What is that little inner voice saying? And are you listening to that voice inside of you that's repeating all of the stuff that you've heard that is not the truth of who you are? Which voice do you really want to listen to? I'm going to suggest to you, you want to listen to that inner child that knows it's absolutely one of the most greatest things that ever came into this world. There's a part of us that knows that. There's a part of us that, of course, that forgets that. And we take on the voices of others, and we take on the limiting ideas and the limiting thoughts and the limiting ways of looking at things. And we have an opportunity during this Christmas season to pivot, to shift, to change who and what we are paying attention to and what we're listening to. One of my other favorite teachers is a wonderful guy named Alan Cohen. How many of you are familiar with Alan Cohen? He wrote this amazing work called The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore. That was one of his first. I had the great honor of having Alan come and stay in my home when I came and had him speak for me. Of course, we were on vacation, but he came and stayed in my home and loved it. He wrote me a beautiful letter and thanked me for letting him stay in the home and enjoy the hot tub. We had a hot tub, and so that was really nice. But Alan's a great teacher and a great spirit. But one of the things he says that I love, let me find my spot here. Here we go. Oops, wrong spot. Here we go. He's talking about angels. I talked about angels earlier, and he says, angels about and within. During the holiday, holy day season, we enjoy the most pleasant public acknowledgement of angels. Years ago, my spiritual teacher, Hilda, told me that angels are the most present within us on the planet around this time as we open the door to their reality and draw them into our midst with song, celebration, and the spirit of giving. Isn't that great? So considering that everything we see in the outer world is the manifestation of an inner process, there is a great symbolism to the angelic presence during this season. We have come to the point on our planet where we must own and accept responsibility for our own angelic nature. And then down a little further, I want to read about, he says, oops, lost it. Here we go. It's over here. Oops, I lost it. And what about the angels of noble intention who have stepped into public office, courageously entering the battlefield of politics, attempting to bring about real peace in the world? What about those angels who cut us off on the highway or challenge us with harsh words or an irritating presence? Do they not urge us to delve deeper into ourselves to find a peace that is not vulnerable to worldly changes? And then there are the guardians who teach through painful experiences, requiring us to find a godly strength within our soul, a power that we would not have mobilized unless it were drawn forth through trial. You know, the angels show up in a lot of different ways in life. They show up to give us an awareness or a message that there's something more that's being called in and to and through us to bring into the world. That song, Joy to the World, is really a calling for us to bring more joy through us into the world. It's not to get the world to try and make us joyful. It doesn't work that way. Now, don't get me wrong. You can have delight and happiness and find uplifting experiences out in the world, but I'm absolutely convinced that we're being called to be the light of the world, to be the joy of the world. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see. I'm going to suggest to you that applies to the love. Be the love you wish to see, and it also applies to joy. Be the joy you wish to see more of. So here's a couple of ways for us to think about joy. Teilhard de Chardin said, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. And I'm going to read to you 10 ways that you can, things that you can give up in order to experience more joy. Christmas is not only a season of giving, it's also a season of giving up. You ready to hear this? All right. 10 things. Giving up living in fear. Give up negative self-talk. Give up living in the past. Give up living other people's dreams or seeking their approval. Give up resistance to change. I notice a lot of giggling. You notice a lot of Give up comparing yourself with others, even if they are doing it better than you or worse than you. Give up comparing, is what I would say. Give up your need to impress others. Give up blaming others or circumstances. Give up complaining or making excuses. I really hate those people that complain all the time, don't you? And then 10, never doubt that God has a greater purpose for you. 10 beautiful things to remember this Christmas season, to let go of, so that your joy may be complete. Have a fantastic Christmas, and I hope to see every one of you here for our Christmas Eve service.
And the one we're going to sing for you today is O Glorio Sissimi Lux Vivens Angeli, which means, O most glorious, living like angels. And so while we sing this, we're going to sing it 9 times. And the first 3 times, just receive. And then if you feel led to do it, you can sing along with us. And while we're doing this, if you want to, bring to mind an intention that you have for today or for the Christmas season, something that you would like to have healed, and we will breathe into you the living light.